Wedding planning and getting engaged is supposed to be one of the happiest and most memorable times of your life. But if you have OCD, it can be filled with intrusive thoughts, overwhelming anxiety, and ideas of chasing perfection. But there is a way to be able to handle this special time in your life with the right tools, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. My name is Alix, and I am partnering with NOCD to talk a little bit about my experience about how OCD latched on to getting engaged and wedding planning, and how I got through it and was able to make sure that that time stayed really special instead of turning into something really stressful. So first, I'm going to talk about how OCD really latched onto those moments, and then how ERP really helped me move through it in a positive way. So I'm getting married in September, so in about 7 months by the time this video is up. I got engaged back in May of 2024, and we started wedding planning around August. So first, let me tell you about how OCD latched on to getting engaged. So we were going on a road trip in May to Maine for like 4 days. Me, my boyfriend at the time, and his 3 friends. So he has never said anything like this before, but he told me to get my nails done because just in case something happened, he wouldn't want them to look ugly. And he was like kind of joking about it, but he also never said anything like this before. So of course my brain like went off into a spiral and was like, oh my gosh, what if he's proposing? And so OCD really latched onto that hard, as it so often does. And I started having all of these intrusive thoughts. What if he proposes and I'm not ready? What if he proposes and I look ugly? What if he doesn't propose because the weather's supposed to be bad? He doesn't think it's going to be that right moment? What if he doesn't propose because he changed his mind? All of these intrusive thoughts that were really taking over what would be a really special time in my life, a really special trip, and turning it into a what if and something negative. So all the way leading up to the trip, I was so stressed out. I was so anxious and excited, but the OCD was really causing me to ask for so much reassurance from my friends and my dad. And so I had pretty much texted them both up until the moment happened, which it didn't happen until like day 4 of the trip. So all the moments leading up to it, I was texting them the whole time saying, it didn't happen yet. It's not going to happen. What if it doesn't happen? And then I'm never going to get engaged. Again, all these intrusive thoughts and OCD really, really searching for certainty when this was something that I had no control over whatsoever. So it really robbed me of like a really special trip and staying present in the moment. And I was able to turn it around and ended up being like such a memorable trip. But OCD really was trying hard to just make this stressful for me and it to succeed at some moments. So when I have an OCD flare up, I tend to shut down and just like not really talk because I'm so in my head. And my boyfriend at the time, now fiance, knew me really well. We've been dating for like 3.5 years at this point. So he knew when my OCD was acting up and he could tell something was wrong. So he was asking me, are you okay? What's wrong? Like, are you not having a good time? And then his friends started to notice, asking the same things. Are you okay? You seem really quiet. And I was really upset because I didn't want to be feeling this way, but my OCD was just latching on so hard and making me worry so much. And so, like I said, for a couple moments of the trip, it really did just take me out of the present when I should have been enjoying this. And that's what OCD loves to do. It loves to just take the really special moments and make you question them and search for certainty. And it did a really good job at getting my attention for some of the trip, but I was able to pull myself together. And I'll tell you a little bit later how ERP really helped me during these moments. So now I'm going to tell you how OCD took hold of wedding planning. So we did get engaged, and like I said, it was beautiful. It was such a great experience, and I'm so happy that those thoughts didn't end up controlling the whole trip, and it did turn out the way I wanted to. But sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want to. And again, I'll talk about that later, about how that ERP mindset really helped me. But first, let's talk about wedding planning. So we got engaged in May, and then about like 3 months later, we started looking at venues in August, at the end of August. And so then, of course, my intrusive thoughts came up. What if I don't find the perfect venue? What if I do find the venue I like and they don't have a date available that I want? What if it's too expensive? What if it doesn't turn out good? All those intrusive thoughts came up because, again, something big and special was happening, and OCD loves to grab hold of that. And at this time, my dad was home and he was helping me tour venues, and he was just really like knowledgeable about the whole experience. So I tagged him along. And as soon as like we went to the venue that we ended up choosing, I just knew that it was like the venue for me. And of course, OCD latched onto it because it obsessed over it. And we didn't book right away because, there's other things that had to happen. We had to make sure timing was right, that it wasn't too expensive, just all the things had to work out. And one thing about OCD is it always wants an answer right now. And that's a problem because life doesn't work that way. You don't always get an answer right away, and sometimes you really just have to wait it out and see what happens. But OCD hates that. And so again, my OCD started latching on and having me get really irritable and just asking for reassurance over and over again to my dad. What if we don't get the venue I like? What if it doesn't work out? You got to keep reminding me, like, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, it probably will work out, but we can't do anything about it right now. Like, things are happening behind the scenes. They're going to work it out and see what happens and then get back to us. And that was so painful for me because my OCD always wants an answer right now, and it just wasn't going to work that way. And so that was like a really big portion of about how my OCD took control of wedding planning. And like I said, it was a lot of reassurance seeking and a lot of like irritability because I was so anxious. But I was able to, again, get it under control, and it made the rest of my wedding planning really joyful and not stressful. So let me tell you now how ERP really helped move me through both of these moments in my life. So I'm in therapy still 2 times a month, every 2 weeks, and my therapist is always reminding me of my ERP tools and, how to get them ready when I'm having a flare up. And we had talked right before I went away to Maine to get engaged, and I let her know I thought something was happening and I was worried that my OCD was gonna, affect it. And she kept reminding me that I have the tools to succeed. I just have to use them. So one of the big things is when OCD starts to happen, you start to ruminate. You start to have all these what ifs, these intrusive thoughts, and it's just like a spiral. It keeps spinning. And so my OCD therapist always says to try to redirect your energy elsewhere. Now, that doesn't mean distracting yourself. It could kind of be, but it just means just moving on from rumination and doing something else. So for example, when I was away before I got engaged and I was ruminating, I really tried to focus on the present, how I was in nature, how it was beautiful around me, how the weather was getting warm, how it wasn't raining, and it just turned out to be a really beautiful place. That really helped me, stay grounded and reconnect and not be so much in the spiral, but focus on what was around me, the beauty that was around me. And so that's a tool that has really helped. So for you, if you ruminate, you really turn it into something positive. So instead of ruminating, do something you like. Go for a walk, bake, paint, draw, anything that brings you happiness. Instead of ruminating, take that energy and put it towards something positive. So that was one tool that was really helpful, recognizing when I was ruminating and being able to channel that energy elsewhere. The second tool was obviously in helping asking for reassurance. So OCD thrives on reassurance seeking. Like I said, it wants the answer, it wants certainty right now. But this is just not how life works. So part of really cutting off that cycle is either stopping asking for reassurance completely if you can, or delaying it for as much as possible. So when I want to ask for reassurance, when I wanted to ask during those times, I would say, you know what, I'm going to set a timer on my phone for 5 minutes, and then we'll see how I feel in 5 minutes. The 5 minutes would go by, and either I would still feel anxious or the anxiety would have kind of went away, and I didn't have that like really big feeling of anxiety and the sensitivity, like the hyper awareness and just feeling really panicky. If I did still have that feeling, I'd be like, okay, I'll set another 5 minutes, add to it, see if it passes. And like I said, most of the time after you set those reminders, the anxiety comes down. It's just that initial moment that really gets you worked up. But usually the anxiety and that urge will start to fade. And then by the time that the timer is done, you'll be like, oh, like I don't even want to ask for reassurance anymore. Like I feel a little bit better. So that's a really great tool if you can't stop asking for reassurance to delay it. Or, if you can cut it off completely, that's still helpful. But I know it's not realistic for everyone. So even just delaying it is a really good way to help kind of break the cycle instead of feeding it. And so the next tool that is kind of part of ERP, but it's also used alongside ERP, is radical acceptance and kind of just like leaning into the uncertainty. So obviously, like, we want plans to happen in our life, but they don't always work out. And like I said, I really wanted to get engaged and I wanted to have an answer so badly. I wanted to know before it happened so I could just accept that happiness. But we can't control what other people do or the outcomes in life. And really leaning into that instead of just obsessing with certainty really just freed me a lot and lifted a lot of anxiety off of me. Now, don't get me wrong, it took time to learn how to really sit with the uncertainty, but again, a big part of that is coming back to the present moment. And I would even kind of tell myself some affirmations, not in a reassurance seeking way, but in a way where I was like, okay, like I can control what I can control, but the rest I just have to leave up to God. Or maybe this will happen, maybe it won't happen, but either way, I'm going to be okay. So affirmations like that really help me just remind myself that even if the worst case scenario happened, I would be okay. I've handled everything in my life up to this point. I will be okay. I can handle uncertainty. I can handle discomfortness. I know I can because I've done it before. And so really just leaning into that uncertainty and saying, we'll see what happens, or I don't know. Little affirmations like that can be helpful, and just reminding yourself that you can sit with uncertainty. And like I said, just accepting that some things are out of our control. And just because, you want to ask for reassurance or you want to confess whatever your compulsion is, just because you do that isn't going to stop something from happening. Like, I know we like to think that our compulsions have control over outcomes. They don't. And realizing that, like I said, really set me free and just really reminded me that I just have to let things happen sometimes and I can't control them. And that's just the way life is. And exposure therapy helped me so much with this. Just having my therapists really just remind me to sit with certainty and doing it while I was in sessions. They would bring up things that would make me anxious. And they would say, okay, like, are you having any compulsions in your head that you really want to do? And I was like, yes. And they were like, well, I'm not going to answer them. You just got to sit here and just wait for the anxiety to pass. And yeah, that can seem kind of like painful, and it is a little bit, but the more you do it, the more you practice, the easier it gets. And then the next time like something big comes up, you'll be able to be like, okay, like maybe this will happen, maybe it won't. But either way, like, it's going to be okay because I've handled discomfort before. So really using those ERP skills made the rest of this wedding process really joyful instead of stressful. After my initial flare-ups, I was really able to get my OCD back in control, work with my therapist with these skills that she gave me, and just really enjoy the process and not freak out about every little thing, and just utilize those skills to just help me make this a fun process. So if this sounds like you and you are struggling, NOCD offers effective, specialized treatment for people who have OCD. So that means that they know exactly what they're doing and you're in great hands. And so all you have to do is visit NOCD.com and they will find a specialist, a therapist for you who will help you on your recovery journey. I'm the biggest advocate for this type of therapy because it saved my life and brought me so much freedom and just taught me really amazing life skills that I think anyone can benefit from. So if you are struggling with OCD, there is hope. You can get your life back. You can be in the driver's seat and kick OCD to the curb. Trust me, I've been there. It's a journey, but with ERP, you can do anything. All you have to do is call that number and they will find you a therapist who fits your needs. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram for more content, my account name is Recover OCD. Thank you for watching and have a great day.